Hi everybody, good afternoon. Jeff at Cutter Masters here. Today we're going to talk about the new grinding wheels we've created for 2015. Here we have one of the traditional grinding wheels. This is a CM31. It's an old Cutter Master wheel. These were designed, this flaring cup design was designed in the 30s. And with the tool sharpening machines, you don't really need the same mass in the wheel that you need when you're doing all that heavy flute creation where you're grinding a tool from solid. These wheels are typically too thick here for regrinding. They're hard to balance, as you can tell by the holes in this one. And this one's actually still not very balanced. And so what happens is when you mount the wheel, and you mount the wheel with this big wheel cap also, you have this mass that you don't actually need to sharpen just the outside of the flutes, where you're taking very light cuts. And also, this is too thick. The material over here doesn't need to be that thick. Since you're not actually ever really using the resin much, you're just taking a few thousandths off the outside of a tooth or an end. We don't like to have a real wide face there because it's hard to govern. You don't actually know all the time where the resin is actually touching the wheel. For example, if you're coming to center, is it actually at the outside edge, or is it in here somewhere? And if you have to go too far, then you go across center, and then you get to start over. So let's look at the new wheel shapes that we've got for this year. We've taken a lot of the mass out of the wheel so they remain balanced, that your machine doesn't wobble so much and they stay sharp. And also, usually these wheels are not formulated for dry grinding. They've been designed and created so they can grind in a coolant environment. And if you use a wheel that's designed for coolant, it will not work well in a dry grinding environment. It'll plug up and it'll glaze. So let's take a look at the new wheels we've got. What you've got here is a typical 11V9 flaring cup wheel, full of lightning holes. You can see it's got a very thick wall. You can see the cap itself, which we actually lighten up in the back. Carries a lot of mass with it also. All of these things contribute to vibration when you're grinding. So this wheel was designed for another purpose, and it was designed a long time ago. And when the grinders that we're talking about, these new end mill sharpeners, didn't even exist. So what we did to begin with is we created what we call, this is a modified 12. We call this our Super 12 flaring cup wheel. This is our Super 12. This is our Super 12 dish wheel. And the reason these were created was to eliminate mass and mount them, ease of mounting. What you'll see now is you don't need the cap. There's a 1/2 inch spindle on a Cutter Master. This just slips right over that and centers up. This is perfectly square, and then you just put your three button head screws in there. We prefer button heads over socket heads because it's a little less torque. So these both perform the same function. They're just a little different approach. Then in the 11 category, we know people like the 5-inch wheel, so what we've done was created a new form which is a little bit different shape. This is an 11V9C. It has a little more taper to the side. The media is 80 thousandths, and there's a whole bunch less mass than there is in the classic 11V9. So once you've mounted this wheel and you've trued it up, chances are it's going to run a lot smoother and give you good finish. So, and this does a traditional mount with a cap. We've made new light caps for the Cutter Masters also. So, so what we've done also then, for the last 40 years, you haven't really been able to true up any wheels on a Cutter Master. So we created a spindle-mounted dressing wheel. And so this is for shaping up your wheel. So when you get your wheels in first, they'll come in, they'll be a little sharp on the edge. What we want you to do is just grind that edge square, and then actually we prefer it if you relieve it a little bit. And this means that you're actually, where you come in contact with the tool, it's just the outside corner. And once again, this is formulated for dry grinding. So once you've trued these wheels up, they should mount back up. You never have to mount again. Never have to true them up again. So so traditionally you'll mount the wheel when you first get it, you'll mount it, just grind that edge off square a little bit, just so that corner is not fragile. And then if you choose, we like to relieve that just a little bit like that. And then for the people in the crowd that, you know, if you receive your tools and you wish there was a flat on them, quite often carbide end mills don't come these days with flats on the shank. So we've also created this shank grinding tool. This is diamond in this particular case. This is so that you can produce your Weldon flat. Or you can grind chamfers, you know, on your tools like that. But generally you can just come across like that. It'll give you a nice uniform flat for your set screw on your carbide tools. It's a really easy operation, and you want the flat to be consistent, because if it isn't, then sometimes the tool can loosen up in the holder. So ideally once you've ground the wheels into true shape using your truing device, then you just dress your wheel as you traditionally would. And the dressing, of course, as you know, kind of what the dressing does, it wears the resin down so the media is a little bit more prominent. So you got a truing operation using this, and this is actually a brake truing device. There's roller bearings inside here, and these shells are created to deflect a little bit, so you can actually adjust the tension on this, so you get the scuffing, and you do that also by changing the relationship of this wheel to the wheel that's spinning. So once you got the wheel in the shape you want, then you know you can keep it crisp with the dressing. So once again, this is a Super 12. It's a 4-inch wheel, and this is the Super 12 dish. It's also a 4-inch wheel. And the other reason that we've done these smaller wheels, is on the Cuttermaster machine you have limited opportunity to affect the height relationship between the spindles. So by making the wheel smaller, it gives you a little bit more clearance when it comes to gashing this out. And then of course with the DC you can vary your speed quite a bit. With the bigger wheel you actually have to get too high above to do a good job of gashing. And gashing is also usually a challenge, so we're going to show you more about that here pretty quick. And those are our new wheels for 2015.